Good morning, Snapchat! My name is Geoffrey Andrews and I'm an engineer at NASA's Glenn Research Center. Today, I'm going to show you a day in the life of a Lehigh alumnus. Unfortunately, this is going to be a very rainy day, but only one of us is going to get damp, so I guess we'll soldier on. Here's where the excitement happens. Pour something. Well, I think the rain has let up a little bit, so we're going to take a walk over to the Propulsion Systems Laboratory and check out one of Glenn's cool facilities. Something very exciting is happening, and I have no idea what. So, a little bit of history as we're walking through this increasingly heavy drizzle here. Glenn was founded during World War II as a research facility to study aircraft engines and how they performed in research done here at Glenn was instrumental in the war effort and then in developing America's first rocket and jet engines. The facility we're about to see is where a lot of that research took place.
Okay. So there's the 10 spray bars that we have, a total of 244 nozzles. Send the cloud through there like you saw in the video. We had to put this, all that fun stuff.
Very, very cool.
And then if we'd be testing an engine.
Alright, we are standing in one of the main cells of the Propulsion Systems lab. So right here behind me I'm standing where you normally mount a jet engine in this giant chamber. So the cool thing about this facility is that they can simulate flight conditions at a variety of altitudes. So this whole room thing I'm standing in is a vacuum chamber where they can suck all the air out. So, based on the fact that I'm starving, I've decided that it's officially lunchtime, so I'm just walking through my building on the way to the canteen for the full NASA Glen. Now, upstairs where I work is all offices, but this building is actually a huge test facility with dozens of giant test rigs and rooms. You can see these huge blast doors behind me to give you an idea. Here we have the hangar, which was built in World War II to house the center's original research aircraft, and that's still what it does today, although with the terrible weather, they're all hiding inside. Alright, next stop on the NASA Glen Tour Spectacular, brought to you by Geoffrey is the Drop Tower, which is the largest microgravity facility anywhere in the world.
FTH, my division, our other labs all use cryogenics. This is the only one that doesn't.
So it is the general. Alright, we're taking a very scenic route back to my office, but right now we're walking past the 10-foot by 10-foot supersonic wind tunnel. It's bloody massive. Two more cool facilities. This big geodesic dome thing is actually an acoustic test chamber where we test different kinds of engines to measure the noise they produce. And this massive thing over here is another tunnel. It's technically two wind tunnels rolled into one, but this entire building is the tunnel, which I still find a little mind-boggling. Right, just to give you a sense of scale, this is the small end of the 8x6 supersonic tunnel. We saw the other side earlier. I don't know how big exactly, but it's about football field sized. Alright, well, the workday's winding down, so I think it's high time for some more show and tell. Right here, we have a model of NASA's SLS, the Space Launch System. Now, NASA's building the full-size one right as we speak, and when it's done, it'll be something like 370 feet tall. Eventually, it'll take astronauts to the moon and even onto Mars. In front of me now is a full-size mock-up of Orion's service module. So Orion is the space capsule that will ride on top of the SLS over there. The point of the service module is that it contains a life support system, engine, fuel, and electronics for the command module or the capsule that the astronauts live in. Alright, the last and perhaps my favorite cool thing to show here on the center is the Shuttle Centaur upper stage rocket. So the Centaur upper stage rocket that you see here was developed by NASA Glen in the 50s and the 60s and launched some of NASA's most famous scientific satellites. So this is probably starting to seem really nerdy, but the Centaur is a really interesting piece of technological history as America's first cryogenic rocket and helped NASA beat the Russians to the moon. Alright, quick 10-second rocket propulsion lesson. Over my head here are two RL-10 cryogenic liquid rocket engines running off of liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. Propellants come out of these tanks here, go into the turbopumps there, which pump up to high pressure, and then through the cooling jacket of the nozzle in the main combustion chamber to keep it all cool, into the combustion chamber where it's burnt and shot at the back at high speed. Alright, I promise I'm done rambling about rockets, so I'll just leave you with my favourite view of the centre, our roots in aviation, our history in space, and the exciting aerospace frontiers which lie ahead of us. Hello again, Snapchat. As you can see, I've changed out of my work clothes into a more casual evening look, because it's time to head downtown and check out the jazz festival. The streets are sparkling with the rainwater, it's magical. Time to head home, but first... Well, Snapchat, it's been a fun day, and at this point, most of the night. But as I mentioned, I've got a plane to be flying in about 5.5 hours, so I really ought to get some sleep. I hope that you found it interesting to learn a little bit about what my day-to-day life is like, and if you're interested in learning more about the many great things that NASA does, I encourage you to look online or on social media. If you have questions for me specifically, I'll put up my email and my Twitter handle, because what could go wrong with sharing contact information with 1,000 strangers? But, for now, good night.